It's one of the darkest days in Detroit history, June 11th, 1982. A man goes on a shooting rampage in the Buhl Building, setting it on fire and forcing people to jump out of windows to escape.
An intern was killed that day. 5 others shot and 36 more were sent to the hospital. It happened at a downtown law firm that served high-level criminals and nationally known celebrities.
But it was an unknown client who didn't get a $2,500 insurance settlement check who came to the Buhl Building with gasoline, a shotgun, and a lot of rage. Rod Maloney talks to people who lived through that terrifying day, and we do want to take a moment to tell you some of this video you're about to see may be hard to watch.
The Local 4 News archives give us the startling pictures of this long-ago workplace murder. Much of the Buhl Building's 8th floor burned. Office occupants broke out windows, gasping for air and pleading for first responders to rescue them. Some even sat on window ledges outside, their legs dangling in the breeze. 2 attorneys jumped to a lower ledge 40 feet below, winding up paralyzed. But this came long after a mentally ill gunman, then 35-year-old Robert Harrington, set the blaze with a Molotov cocktail. Before that, he'd started firing a pump shotgun, the stock he'd sawed off in order to keep it hidden under a trench coat. Most notable about this chaotic scene, in 1982, the Detroit Fire Department didn't have high enough aerial ladders. They could only reach the 6th floor. They lost valuable time having to splice an extra ladder to the end of a fully extended, more stable truck ladder before they could reach the obviously terrorized staffers desperately reaching, clamoring to get to that ladder. Harrington rode a city bus from his Detroit home to the downtown looking for his insurance settlement money. He shot and killed a young law student intern by the name of Eve August, just 25 years old, pumping 5 shots into her chest.
My office was like the first.
Attorney Doug Wartell worked there that day. We showed him Local 4's coverage, and he recalled while talking on the phone.
I heard what sounded like a giant crash. It sounded like a bookcase falling over.
That was Harrington's first blast, quickly followed by another.
I heard a big boom. Door explodes.
Immediately, Wartell crouched under his desk and his furniture shook with yet another shotgun blast. And then
I hear kind of a glass breaking. I didn't know what it was. And then around comes a guy. I couldn't see him. And I saw that he had a trench coat on, which had caught on fire.
While pointing his shotgun in Wartell's face, Harrington had to stop to try and pat out the gas-fed flames on his overcoat.
When I saw that, and I had this little momentary opportunity to get out from under, I took it.
Wartell bolted from the burning offices down the stairs to a phone to call police.
It's not a movie. It's like for real. And if you make the wrong move, you're history.
While Doug Wartell ran from the office, Detroit Police Detective Sergeant Tommy Robinson ran in the other direction. Now 84 years young, Robinson had never seen Local 4's video of that day, so we sat and watched it together. Now, this Detroit News picture is perhaps the best known image of that day. A bloodied Robert Harrington on the left, his brother Gerald on the right, and a wide-eyed Sergeant Tommy Robinson in the middle, looking out of the burning Buhl, 2 firefighters having just arrived.
And I noticed a lady across the street on a building with a camera taking a picture. And I said, I do not need pictures, I need some help.
Gerald Harrington, again on the right here, was a bank vice president downtown. Robert's wife had called him saying Robert intended to hurt a lot of people, so he went to the law offices shortly before Detective Robinson arrived. Gerald talked his brother into dropping his gun. As for Robinson, June 11th, 1982 was his day off. He'd gone to nearby Hart Plaza to watch the Detroit River and relax, but he had his police radio with him, heard the call, and ran to the nearby Buhl elevator, riding straight to the 8th floor, thinking that he'd join other police officers. But in a barricaded gunman situation, you're supposed to go to the floor above or below, a detail that he'd forgotten. And when he arrived on the 8th floor, he heard gunfire.
So I took my gun out and said, well, this is it.
Robinson found Gerald and Robert in a library.
And that's when I opened the door and saw the brother. Then I opened the door a little bit wider and I saw his other brother, Robert Harrington, on the floor. He had been creased with he had an injury in his forehead, blood running down his forehead, but his eyes was red, very red. And I said, you too. If you move, I'm killing you.
Robinson handcuffed them together, not knowing why Gerald was there. He also ordered the brothers to throw a chair out the window so they could breathe.
And I told him and his brother, I said, if you struggle again, I'll throw you out this window.
They stood in that window for what seemed like hours. The detective thought about jumping.
I've been in several other serious incidents, but this is the most serious I've ever been in. And I did not think I would make it out of there alive. I really didn't. And I was praying to God now.
In the aftermath, Robert Harrington, now 76 years old, went to prison for life. He's still serving his sentence in a UP prison. Detective Sergeant Tommy Robinson received the Medal of Honor from the Michigan Police Chiefs Association and a couple of others from the Detroit Police Department. Tommy's a bit sheepish about that.
Just working stiff, that's all. And that's why I look at myself, because we work. That's all we know how to do was work. We didn't go out for glory.
So traumatizing were the events of that day for some of the survivors that they don't even want to think about it and ask not to be part of our coverage. In the meantime, some unique relationships came out of this. For instance, Detective Robinson, whom you just heard for, met Lou August, Eve August's brother, at her funeral. And they agreed 40 years ago to meet on this corner every year on the anniversary. And they did yesterday again for the 40th time. In downtown Detroit, Rod Maloney, Local 4.